This is going to be highly educational, a very, very valuable learning tool. For those of you who follow me, you can recall that I did a video about America, the rise and fall of a pagan nation. And this is the thumbnail of that video. This is just a picture of that thumbnail. And I talked about the Mayflower and its association to paganism. I taught all about that. You can go back and refresh yourself if you need to on that video. But the important part is I've had someone that has recently commented on this video, which is no surprise. This person came out in defense of Jonathan Cahn. So clearly he has been falsely taught by false prophets like Jonathan Cahn. So this individual's argument was initially that no, the foundation of America was Christian. In what I've shown, unequivocally shown, that our founding fathers were deists, and that's what I talk about in this video. And this is actually a pagan statue. The Statue of Liberty is actually a pagan statue, Liber specifically, of Liber. So what I want to go into in this video is that same individual, once I had proven to them that the founding fathers were in fact pagans, they were practicing deism, what's known as deism. Well, then they went further, and what they did last night, they commented as I was sleeping. They said that, well, the Pilgrims, who were supposedly Christians, what they argue, the Pilgrims, Christians, were the founders of America. And this just, I couldn't even believe this. And this is just what's incredible to me of how absolutely ignorant of history and biblically illiterate so many people are. So we're going to learn, I'm going to teach you, and all of this information can be verified and fact checked. The Pilgrims were not Christians. The fact of the matter is they were escaping Christian persecution from England because the Queen was killing them off and wasn't allowing them to practice the type of religious practices that they were practicing. Understand that. It was the Christian persecution and refusal of the Queen of England to allow them to practice what they were practicing. So they first fled to Amsterdam. Understand that. They were allowed to be in Amsterdam because there was a pastor, a Pastor Robinson, that allowed people like the Pilgrims to live there as long as they were honest people. Understand that. Now we know what Amsterdam is like now, and that's why it's like it is now, because you had these kind of people living there and establishing Amsterdam. You have the drug use, that's the capital of the world. The drug use and prostitution capital of the world is Amsterdam, including underage prostitution. It's debauchery of the worst kind. But that is the reason the Pilgrims were allowed to be in Amsterdam for a little while, because that Pastor Robinson allowed that kind of behavior, allowed people like that to live there. Ultimately, in the very early, beginning in 1600s, and the Pilgrims, they were known as the Leiden Congregation. Leiden congregation. You can verify that up, do your research, and you'll see that I'm accurate in everything I'm saying, including about the Pastor Robinson of Amsterdam. I'm very informed. I don't talk about anything unless I know what I'm talking about. So the Pilgrims ultimately left Amsterdam to the New World in early 1600s. They arrived on the shores and built Jamestown. The leader of that congregation, the Leiden congregation, was, and that's why they called themselves the Leiden congregation, was their prophet. Understand that. Their prophet, James Smith. Now do you start to see where we're at in America now with all of these false prophets running around? How all of these false prophets are running around in America, because even the pagans have their own prophets. Satan himself has his own prophets. Understand that. And you're seeing that in these days. So, John Smith was their leader, their prophet, false prophet, and he founded Jamestown. But probably the most important takeaway that you can research for yourself, but this has also been mistaught, it has been slightly mistaught. They began practicing cannibalism. They were practicing cannibalism. That's not Christian in any form or fashion. Now, the history books will try to say that, well, they were starving. They were not starving. The problem was they were lazy, and because they believed the things that they believed. And understand this, that ultimately, even though Amsterdam, Pastor Robinson in Amsterdam allowed them to be there, he ultimately made them leave too. They knew they had to leave there also, because they still were Christians in Amsterdam. And what the Pilgrims believed and practiced was definitely not Christian. Absolutely not Christian. So that's just to debunk this individual Shimshon plays. And it goes to correct a lot of these misteachings, like Jonathan Cahn and all these other false prophets running around. America was never built on Christian values. It was pagans that came over here. The Pilgrims were not Christian. You cannot be a practicing cannibalist and be a Christian. They were fat, lazy Europeans and did not want to go out, and it was just easier for them to eat one another. Understand that. And it had, because their religious beliefs, they had no problems with that. And that's what goes to show they were not Christians. They could have been fishing, trapping, hunting, and doing all of those things, but it was just so much easier for them to continue to practice their cannibalistic ways. Never a Christian foundation. This country, the only Christian that happened was only later, when the Christians from Europe, the true Christians, came over here and brought Jesus to this pagan nation, brought Christianity to this pagan nation. And it's been a battle since. It's been a battle ever since. Because, ultimately, when this nation was established, you did have Christians come. And you did have, actually, here's another important part. You had 5 of the Indian tribes were known as the civilized tribes, because they actually had very similar Christian values like most Christians do. They practiced Christian values in their lifestyle. So they were ultimately called the 5 civilized tribes. And this is why it's believed that many years ago that a true prophet from ancient times came and taught the Indians, because of those 5 civilized tribes, because they have very, very Christian-like values. But it was the pagan pilgrims that brought their paganization and founded America based on that, practicing their cannibalistic behaviors, and so much more debauchery. Again, this is why they were ran out of England and ran out of Amsterdam, because of those pagan worshiping behaviors and debauchery. Nothing Christian about it. Nothing Christian about the Pilgrims. And understand this too. They brought disease into America with them, and that speaks multitude. With them came plagues and disease, and it actually killed off millions of the Christian Native Americans. Realize that. That's what paganism does. That's why you're seeing plagues come to this land and many lands now, this paganization, what we're seeing. The Pilgrims brought that to America. So that's a little valuable learning tool to show, and you can research all of that. Look up Pastor Robinson of Amsterdam, the leading congregation, the prophet, false prophet, John Smith, that was the leader of Jamestown and founded Jamestown. None of this was Christian. The history, some of the history books would like for you to believe that, but it's a falsehood when you actually dig into the true history. God bless.